and we want to get to Chris Daniels. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
Chris, you're like kind of interesting. You're probably about the most publicized wrestler who has not been given any kind of a significant push in WWF or WCW. Pretty well acknowledged as one of the best, maybe some would say the best independent wrestler. You're not a secret in that, like, everyone in wrestling knows about you. You've had your tryouts in both companies. You had a contract with WCW. You've worked in Japan extensively in the last couple of years. Just got back from England a couple of weeks back. What's your future in wrestling right now? I mean, do you have any deal with WWF, or how does that stand right now?
Right now, it's still kind of up in the air. There's no solid deal with WWF, but we're in the middle of talking about it. So nothing concrete to say. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks something will come about. But right now it's kind of up in the air.
What's been your feelings as far as in wrestling over, say, the last, let's say, a year to 18 months? Kind of like your name's out there. You're sort of a secret. You're sort of not a secret. You've been around, on TV. You had the chance in WCW. How would you are you frustrated, or are you happy just because, you got to be a star in Japan during that period? Or what's your thoughts as far as the last 18 months of your career?
Well, I wasn't happy. I mean, I was happy to go to Japan, but it wasn't like I was satisfied. That was as far as I wanted to go. I've always wanted to have the job in the States, whether it was with WWF or WCW. I was just looking for the opportunity to work for a company that was going to give me the opportunity to do what I could do. And so when I got signed in March, I was ecstatic. I mean, a lot of people said, why didn't you go to the WWF? Why didn't you hold out for the WWF? And the truth of the matter was WCW is still one of the top, 3 companies in the business. And regardless of how far down they were in the ratings or how much of a mismatch people perceived WCW versus WWF, it was still an opportunity to go to a company where, hopefully they would give you an opportunity to get on television and become part of something that hopefully was going to have a chance to move up to become more of a match as far as the ratings and as far as the head-to-head competition. And it just never materialized, unfortunately. So it was kind of I was happy to be signed, but when it was all said and done, I was a little disappointed, and I feel like I would rather have been wrestling somewhere rather than just have been signed and sit at home like I did.
Who first brought you into WCW?
I actually was signed. The person that offered me the job was Kevin Sullivan.
And then he was gone.
So you came in right, and then he was gone, and then you were kind of in limbo at that point? Is that
yeah,
how it went?
What happened was I went back. My last tour of Japan was the first week of March, the first 3 weeks of March. And so I signed my contract the first day of March, and that was when it was set from March 1st. And with the understanding that when I got back, Kevin said that I would be on television kind of right away. And so while I was in Japan, the whole turnaround happened where Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff came back. And when I came back, they had kind of put me on hold because Vince and Eric really had no idea who I was. So for a while I thought that because Kevin had left, I was going to be let go. And they told me, don't worry about it. Your contract is with WCW. It's not with Kevin Sullivan. So after a while, I just waited at home. And then around June, they called me and they brought me on the road with them for a couple weeks. And that was when they tried to do the thing with Vampiro. And that never worked out. So then they took me off the talent list. And then a couple weeks later, they called me and released me.
The thing with Vampiro, you were the guy in that cloak, right?
Right.
And do you know where that was supposed to go, or did they? Because you were I think you did, but what, 1 or 2 TVs, and then if the character was just, I guess, dropped or something.
Yeah, we did. We actually did the one vignette with me under the hood where I had the speaking role, and the idea was going to be that I was going to play pretty much the Fallen Angel character minus the visual religious overtones. They wanted me to play more of a cult leader, kind of like a David Koresh character. And the idea was going to be that I was going to have some sort of hold over Vampiro, whether it was like a mental thing or some sort of information that I had that he didn't want out. It was some sort of power that I had over Vampiro that he was going to come to me and I was going to guide him sort of. And then at some point we would break away and then I would be on my own to interact with different wrestlers in the federation. And the idea was the first day it was supposed to be they were going to shoot from behind me. It wasn't going to be me under a cloak. It was just going to be me. They were going to shoot from behind me, so they didn't see my face. But for some reason, the director nixed that, and they did that side shot where I was under the cloak. And we did it the one Monday after the pay-per-view, and then the Tuesday they didn't do anything, and then by the next week they had already killed it.
Were you, sitting at home during most of that 90-day period, and then watching TV and seeing, did you have this thing where it was just sort of like, well, I've got to wait my turn, or did you have the attitude of, look at what they're putting on TV, I know I can, work rings around at least some of these guys, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
or,
I when I heard that I was going to be kind of put on the back burner, I kind of understood because I knew that they were going to try and rebuild from with what they had first. They didn't want to put any new characters on because I guess the whole idea was they were going to start from scratch when Vince and Eric came back. So I kind of understood that I wasn't going to be, the top, the main priority at that point. So I was content to sit and wait for a while. But after a little bit, I got the impression that Eric and Vince were always talking about they were going to try and build new talent. They're going to try and get new faces. They were going to try and make stars instead of depend on the stars that they had. And I thought that I fit that bill rather well. And as time went on and they didn't use me, I got a little discouraged. But those are the breaks. So
now, right after they dropped you from contract, I think it was like 3 or 4 days later. They were doing TV, and I think it was it Long Beach, but it was Southern California, and then they used you again.
Right. Yeah, go figure. I worked more for them as someone out of contract than I did when I was under contract. So that's
and then like in recent weeks, you did the WWF thing with the Conquistadors. Now, which matches were you and Aaron Aguilera, and which matches were Edge and Christian?
It was always Edge and Christian. We never wrestled as the Conquistadors.
Oh, really?
Never. Yeah.
Oh, I thought that one of the matches. So
it was like the first one.
The only time that we were in front of the people as the Conquistadors was when Edge and Christian were wrestling Too Cool, and the Conquistadors came out and went to the ringside and made faces and went, ah, and that was us. But every other time it was Edge and Christian, and it made sense because the idea, as far as I understood it, was they wanted everybody to know it was Edge and Christian all along, and so for us to go out and wrestle. I think it would have given away that it was two different people, and then they would have had to address who the two different people were, and they didn't want to do that. So,
wow. No. We actually had to head to a break. No, I was just going to make a comment that you got a lot of favorable publicity for one of the matches that it was actually Christian.
Yeah, exactly. I did read that. I actually read that somewhere that someone said that Christian looked better than he had before. Good job, Chris Daniels. And I was like, well, thanks.
I think a lot of people said that, including me.
Was it? Damn.
I wrote that. Yeah, I thought that, and Edge didn't, which I was blaming on Aaron Aguilera. Oh well.
Yeah.
So much for that. I'm glad you cleared that up, Chris. A lot of people I think are probably under the impression, since your name has kind of gotten out in the last 2 or so years, that you've been wrestling maybe about 2 years, but you've actually been around wrestling. I mean, how long? It's been quite a while actually.
It'll be 8 years in January.
And did you grow up in Chicago or start in Chicago?
I started in Chicago. I actually grew up in North Carolina, but I started training in Chicago in '93.
With Windy City?
Right.
Now,
go ahead.
Were you friends with Kevin Quinn? Are you related? I mean, I've heard all kinds of stories about.
Kevin and I, we trained together. We're not related, but we're basically best friends in the business. And he started training about 5 or 6 months before I did. And we just kind of came up together, and we tagged together for a long time. And, even when I moved out to California and he was still in Chicago, we stayed in touch and we kept real close. So, but we're not related by blood or anything.
Now, when was your first Michinoku tour or your first Japanese tour, was that as Curryman, or did you ever go to Japan before that?
I went one time for Michinoku as myself, as the Fallen Angel, in April of '99, and that was the last tour before the Masked Man tournament, and that was when they decided to bring me back to do the Curryman gimmick.
So it was their idea for Curry Man or something you came up with?
No, it was completely their idea. I had no idea what it was, even when they handed it to me. I kind of looked at it like, what the hell?
Visually, that was one of the stranger gimmicks.
Yeah, exactly. And they had to explain it to me a couple times. I didn't know exactly. Like when I got there, they said, "You are Karema." And I went, "What's Karema? What's Karema?" And so they handed me a T-shirt with the list of names, and I read it and said Curry Man. I was like, okay, what's that? So then they handed me the gimmick, and it was one of those, oh no, it's be a long tour. But I had no idea that it was going to turn out the way it did.
You know,
how'd you first get to Japan?
What's that?
What was your first tour of Japan, and how'd you get in there?
My first tour was that tour in Michinoku in April of '99. That was the first time I'd ever gone. And it had a lot to do with Taka Michinoku and Victor Quinones. They had a tour previously where someone had dropped out at the last minute, and they tried to get me on it. But because they had like 5 days' notice to try and get someone new. And they couldn't get the visa information to me in time to get it through the embassy. So they just told me that I would come at a later date, and that was April. So I went out, and it was like a week and a half tour that I went. And at the end of that tour, they said I was going to come back, but they were going to make a mask for me because the next tour was going to be the Masked Man tournament, and everybody that was on that tour was going to be under the hood. And that was at that point they decided that I was going to be the one that was going to do this Curry Man gimmick for them.
And you were in the what's it called, Super J Cup,
right?
How was last year? You only had one match, right?
Yeah, I had to go out in the first round.
Yeah. Was that because you had to come back for WCW, or was it just their booking?
I think they knew that I had to come back for WCW. I think if I could have stayed and come back for the next week, or stayed for that next week, I think I probably would have only made it to the semis anyway, or one more match. But yeah, I think they knew that I had to go back on the 2nd because I was supposed to be in Colorado on the 9th. That was, or whatever the day was when they did the whole big switch for WCW. That was going to be my first day at TV, and so I told them I had to come back like a week early and get ready. So I only did the first round against that guy from Wrestle Dream Factory.
Is that Onryo?
Right.
Right. That's an interesting gimmick. He's kind of like a high-flying Undertaker thing.
Yeah. I was I liked the gimmick when I first saw it, and over the course of the weeks that I was out there and I saw pictures and a couple of video promos on him, I kind of liked it. I thought it was pretty neat, and it was a different little thing that they had going on out there because a lot of the guys, they're either under a hood or they're by themselves. There are a whole lot of guys that are doing like a gimmick where they're, makeup and that type of gimmick. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Do you ever have a problem communicating in the ring in Japan?
No, most of the wrestlers that I met speak enough English that we could, kind of put together what we needed to put together.
Mm-hmm.
And we would talk it out a lot. We would talk it out pretty much front to back. It wouldn't be like, okay, I'll do this, and then I'll just work you until this point. We pretty much went top to bottom. And then, if I had to call something that I didn't tell them beforehand, I would keep it simple. But there was a couple times where it was a little difficult, and we'd have to get a translator in the locker room to go like, okay, this is what I want to do, this is what he wants to do, and we'd smooth it out. But 9 times out of 10, we really didn't have a problem.
How was England?
England was fun. The 2 times I went over there, I really had a lot of fun with those guys. The first time I went out was for a guy named Dan Berlinka, and he was trying to start a company called the UWA. So I went out for a TV taping for them, and I had a real good time out there. But it was like they made the whole like international thing was all about me coming out. So I was kind of like the invading American of the whole crew, and everybody else was like homegrown talent. And then just recently I went back out for this group called the UCW that was headed by one of the guys that was, I guess he was a color commentator for them. I don't know or a talent scout or something, but now he's like the head guy. And this time he tried to bring a lot of different people in. He brought in Otani and he brought me in, and he tried to make it like an international thing. And I just went out for the one show this last time in October, and hopefully I'll be going back out there. But I had a lot of fun. It was just I expected a lot more mat wrestling out of the British guys that I had met, and there was a lot of guys that could fly and do a lot more stuff than I expected.
Now you wrestled Otani on that show, right?
Right.
Yeah. What was your thoughts about that? Because you never worked with him before, had you?
No, I never had. I was a little intimidated, to be honest with you. To know that you're going to go in and wrestle a guy like Otani, a guy of his, his reputation, and know that he's going to put you over. I was a little intimidated. And I went in kind of nervous, but he was a real nice guy, real generous, and I thought we put together a pretty good match.
Did you talk to him about like what he's up to or anything? Because it's kind of funny that a guy, he's kind of I don't know if exile is the right word, but it's a guy of that talent, and he's kind of wrestling in England where no one hears about it. You know what?
I didn't get a chance to speak to him because he kind of kept to himself, and he didn't really speak a lot of English anyway. But I did speak to the promoter, and he kind of clued me in because I thought they brought him in just for that match. And then in discussion with the promoter, he told me that he was kind of staying over there and that he was kind of on the outs with New Japan, and he didn't know if it was a gimmick or if it was a shoot, and I never really got like a clear idea of what was going on. But
the promoter didn't know, or Otani didn't know?
The promoter didn't know. I don't know if Otani knows what's going on or not. Like I said, I didn't really speak to him. But the promoter was he was kind of 50-50. He thought it might be a work and he might be a shoot. That he was upset with New Japan.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a Japanese thing. There's probably something to it to get him out of there. But they also like to get guys out of there every now and then so they can bring them back and kind of give them a new look and
I had heard that they were thinking about bringing him back, kind of revamping a character for him, or not a character in the sense of character in America, but just to give him like a new attitude or a new look or something like that. So I guess time will tell on that.
What guys have you always wanted to work with that you haven't had a chance to?
I was really looking forward to working with Billy Kidman when I was in WCW. That was one of my major. I've been under the impression, or my opinion is that Billy is one of the best guys that WCW has all around, and I was really looking forward to working with him. And I was kind of upset that didn't get to go. There's really a lot of guys, because all the stuff that I've ever done for WWF, they kind of kept me with the light heavyweight guys. So, I was always wanting to work with guys like D'Lo Brown and Edge and Christian and, guys like that. And, hopefully later on down the line I'll have that opportunity. I still really haven't had a chance to work with Reckless Youth a lot. I did like an 8-man tag, and we worked at like a total of like 3 minutes. And then we did a triple threat match, but we never really did a singles match between each other.
Was that like a Super 8?
What's that?
Was that like the Super 8?
No, we did some stuff for Pennsylvania Championship. There was a 3-way for their heavyweight title that we did with Too Cold Scorpio. And that's like the extent of my working with Reckless Youth. But it was supposed to be something, in 1999 it was supposed to be Reckless and me in the finals of the Super 8, and he pulled out because he was hurt, and they replaced him with Steve Bradley, and that was like the big gimmick at the time because Steve Bradley wasn't even supposed to be in the tournament, and he ended up winning it. So I still haven't had a chance to work the singles match with Reckless yet.
Of guys, you've probably worked as much as far as certainly for a West Coast guy, but almost for anyone as far as like a lot of different independents because you've been really all over the country. I mean, are there any ones that are like your favorite and any guys that you have worked with or that you've seen on these shows that are kind of like undiscovered talents?
I don't have like a favorite. I have a lot of favorites. I really enjoy working for Jim Kettner in the ECWA out in Delaware. Every time he's brought me out, whether it was the Super 8 or any of his regular shows, I've really had a good time. He's got a good crew, and just his fans are there. He's conditioned his fans to appreciate the guys that he has there, and every time I've gone, they've had a live crowd. I enjoy working for Roland Alexander and APW. I think they've got a good bunch of guys, and guys like Mike Modest and Donovan Morgan and Tony Jones. Those guys, they're kind of on the bubble of being finally brought into the big three. I liked working for PCW. There's a guy that just started out in Chicago named Brian Zenner, who's doing Midwest Championship Wrestling, and right now he's using guys like Vic Capri and Jason Rain, and I think those two guys are definitely going to be names that are going to be all over the place in the next couple of years.
Are you still doing the 1-800-COLLECT shows?
No, you know what? I stopped doing that. I just did it the 1 year. I don't know if they're still even doing that same type of tour or not. If they
Actually,
are,
yeah, they are. They're coming up here in December.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Curses! I lost out on that one, I guess.
Mm. Let's should we head to a break or should we start going to the phones?
Let's hit the phones.
Okay, let's go to Matt in San Francisco. Matt, what's going on?
Hey, Chris. Hey, Dave and Chico.
Hey.
Hello.
How's it going, guys?
Fine. How are you?
Been better. Tell me, Chris, how's it been working in UPW?
It's been a lot of fun. It's been good to be part of something that's been growing as fast as it has. When I first started working for UPW, you could tell that it was a new bunch of guys and a new promotion. And in the last year and a half, you can really see the improvement in not just the wrestlers themselves, but in the whole promotion as far as their production, their preparation, the things they want to do in the future. It's just been a lot of fun to be a part of that. And I think a lot of guys, especially now that they've got their ties to the WWF, I think a lot of the guys are going to be coming up from there and making their name for themselves outside of UPW. So I've been real happy to work for them.
Yeah. If I know you aspire to get to New York, WWF, you are in the right place. Okay,
I think
Bastard
so.
talked about it a couple weeks ago, where they're the bottom, and it goes up to, any of the minor league, Ohio Valley or whatever, and then the dark matches, and then on to TV. I noticed that you skipped, you skipped a couple, and you were working some darks. Didn't you and Hardcore Kid work out in Chicago?
Actually, we did a dark match in Ohio, and while I was doing the Conquistador thing, I did a couple dark matches with K Crush or K Quick. So I've done some dark matches on and off. I actually started out doing dark matches, and then I started working for UPW. So I started kind of close to the top, and I'm kind of working my way around in a circle. It's an odd career path with a short stay in WCW to top it off. So.
Well, my personal opinion is Mike Modest is the top technical independent wrestler in the country. I know you've worked with him a couple times. Mm-hmm. What do you think of working with him in the ring?
I've had good matches with Mike. I've been real happy, I think, because we've only really had the opportunity to work together twice. And both of the matches that we had, I was very happy with, especially the second one. And I think Mike is one of those guys that he's on the bubble of being brought in. It's just a matter of time and luck. And I can say nothing but good about Mike.
Yeah, I see Mike as a talent that a promotion can build around, just because of he can work in the ring. He could do this stuff on TV, whatnot, and also he's a damn good trainer. And
he's also an underrated promo.
He's a damn good heel.
Yeah,
Dave, you've been in the gym wars. Come on.
I know I think he's a great performer. The thing with a lot of the guys on the independent level that some people don't recognize. I think there's this mentality with some of them that, like, even the ones that are good workers, so to speak, it's like, well, they're good workers, but what are we going to do with them because our business revolves around promos, not realizing that there are some guys at that level who are good promos. I don't think that they get the credit for that because, the people don't, like, with Modest, for example, when he went to WCW, he never really had a chance to do a promo. I don't think Chris was ever given a chance to show what he could do on a promo, so they're thinking like, well, he's a good worker, but this whole business is promos, and it kind of hurts some guys who actually, it's another thing where you talk about not getting a chance. It's just another aspect of it.
Yeah, and there's really no place, there's really no forum for independent guys to show that they can do promos. I mean, you can grab a microphone at the beginning of a match, but that's not really the type of thing that they're doing now. And so it's kind of an unfair deal where you never really get a chance to either work on or prove that you can do the types of promos that are being done on television. And Dave, I think you're exactly right. Mike is completely a good promo, but not many people would know it because how many people would have actually seen it?
Yeah. What was it like to work with Kurt Angle? Because I know you had the chance to work with him not all that long ago.
It was great. I had a good time working with Kurt. Kurt and I met like 2 years ago when he was in the dojo. We were both in the dojo together at the WWF, and to see where he's come or how far he's come in 2 years, it was kind of cool. And it's weird because as much success as he's had in the last year, he's probably a nicer guy now than he was when I first met him. And so, there was the fact that we had met before and had spent time together at the dojo. There was that comfort factor because we knew each other, and I knew that he was coming off a concussion, and there were just all these little factors that we had to kind of tailor the match around the fact that he couldn't take any big bumps, and we still put together a match that I think a lot of people thought was something that could be termed match of the year. And so I was real happy to have that opportunity. And I think too, it was the first time that the people from WWF had seen me wrestle in like a year. And so I was glad to put that effort in front of them and kind of refresh their memory as to what I could do. And so it was a real good situation for me, and it kind of got me back on track because it seemed like for 6 months while I was on the WCW vacation plan, I kind of dropped out of sight, and then all of a sudden I kind of hopped back into the spotlight by wrestling Kurt. So,
any other overseas tours besides England and Japan?
I did some stuff in Puerto Rico for the IWA. I was on their inaugural TV tapings, and I might be going back there in the future. I don't know. It's up in the air.
Now, that first was that the pilot stuff, or was that when they started the company up? When they started actually the company up.
That was the pilot stuff.
Because they brought in all kinds of good talent from all over the world for that one, didn't they?
Yeah,
I remember seeing the magazine, Sasuke and all those guys, right?
They actually had the first night. They had a lightweight or a cruiserweight Royal Rumble Battle Royal, and like the list of guys, and it was like Sasuke, Tiger Mask, Taka, Super Crazy, Tajiri, Alexander Otsuka, Reckless Youth, Jeff Hardy, me, the list. It was just like a who's who, and and that was just the cruiserweight. That was just for the tournament that they had. They had other guys outside of that tournament that they, the Headhunters and Aguila and all these guys. So it was pretty stacked. It was a pretty stacked 3-day deal.
Let's go real quick to Matt. Matt, we just want to finish up.
Yep.
Okay.
I know you remember the match in September of '98 at the Raw taping, Dave, San Jose, where Chris and Taka tore down the house.
I actually didn't see that match.
No, you didn't. You didn't see the shotgun match?
No, because on Monday nights even when Raw comes to San Jose, I can't go Monday because I got to watch Nitro. I got to watch both shows. So I've been to a lot of SmackDown tapings. I don't know that I've ever been to a Raw taping because of that whole deal on Monday. I may have never been to one. I could be wrong. I mean, maybe like before '95, I went to one. I went to these endless WWF TV tapings in the like 80s and 90s. Those 4-hour marathons.
Yeah.
But compared to by today's standards, those things. They were so bad if you compare them with the stuff that's going on today. That's all I can say. It's like night and day.
It was a great match. Hey, Dave, I'll email you my address, or you can email me, and I'll get you out at the tape. But it's
okay.
Great match. Totally tore down the house.
Thanks. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
That was probably the best WWF TV match that I've seen in probably the last 5 years.
Well, then I really want to see it.
It was great. I mean, Chris hit his finish, and he showboated, and of course Tucker kicked out, but it was still, and the finish was totally out of nowhere. It was just a great match, and Mikey Henderson had a great match too with Funaki that night. That was a hell of a taping. Plus, being in the front row, was pretty cool too. You may remember that Modest and Donovan worked the opener.
Yeah, I remember that day. That was a good set. It was actually when it was right around the time that Blaustein was doing his Beyond the Mat taping, and he wasn't there, but he was there the next night, and that was the night that Modest and Tony Jones had their tryout. So.
And they tore down the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so. I don't know. It's well, Chris, what's it like to do a tryout match? Because it's like one of those things where the fans are so conditioned to see stars that, you're working with such a handicap almost. You know what I mean? Like they're conditioned not to think you're good because they've never seen you on TV, and you really got to win them over.
Yeah, I think the bar is set really high for tryout matches because there's no downtime. I mean, a lot of the things that go on television, there's a comfort zone because people know that. The guys that go out that are on television all the time, they know that all they really have to do is poke their head out the curtain, and the crowd is with them or against them, depending on who they are. But if you're unknown, the people are brutal the minute you come out, and it's really bad when you have to try and play the babyface role because you come out there and you're trying to get the crowd behind you, and they're like, "Jobber!" And you're like, "Oh, it's going to be a long match." But I was pretty lucky because I think it's really hard when two guys, two complete unknown guys, go out there, and it's like no matter what you do, unless you're hitting huge Stardust presses and all these big moves, the crowd is you already got two strikes against you. And so I was really lucky that most of the stuff that I ever did was against guys that people knew. So at least they had that to kind of get behind of the stuff I had against Taka and the stuff I had against Kai and Tai. At least they had that recognition factor. And so it wasn't like a complete, boo, get out of there, get out of the ring. We want to see, whoever the star is. And, at least I didn't have that going against me all the time. But, yeah, it's difficult. And, I was just happy that we had good matches. Taka was one of the guys that was real generous, and he really put me over like $1 million in that match that guy is talking about. We really was. It was almost like 80% me, and I had just to have that kind of thing where Taka would put you over in front of that many people and to the people in the back. It was a big deal, and I really appreciate it.
Okay, we're going to move to Sean. We're going to move to Sean in Florida. Sean, what's going on?
Hey guys, I wanted to ask if you'd heard anything about the Bubba the Love Sponge show this morning.
I have not. Brian, have you heard anything?
No, nothing.
He had Hogan on as pretty much usual.
Oh, was Jimmy Hart on there?
No, but he was pumping up. I guess he's going to have a dark match with Texas Hangman on Survivor Series. Bubba is. And
yeah, well, he works whenever anyone comes to Tampa. I think it's like the mob. You have to put Bubba on the card.
Precisely, exactly. And anyway, him and Hogan were kind of teasing that Hogan was going to, come over the railing and help him out in that match. And it was just kind of odd that they would even tease that, and it wouldn't seem there would be any possibility of that happening.
Well, no, let's see. He can't appear on TV, but if it's in a dark match, I wonder what the legalities are of that. I mean, I'm pretty sure he can't because he's under contract with WCW until mid-March.
Right. Yeah, Bubba was like, well, I don't want to get you into trouble with your WCW contract, but, is there a chance? And Hogan was like, hey, you never know.
Yeah. Whenever there's a show in Tampa, like any kind of a show, like an indie show, there's always those rumors, Hogan's going to come. I think he floats them himself, and then, but then he doesn't come.
How about him sitting in the front row?
I don't know what it is, because remember when Rena Mero did that? I mean, there was like a lot of problems out of that one.
Yeah.
But nothing really happened. It was more threatened.
I'm trying to remember. I don't know like exactly how the contracts state, but I don't think you can do it because when Flair was in the middle of his contract problems with WCW, You know, they wanted to, you know, kind of have, you know, just he'd be like in the crowd at a Greensboro show, and there's Ric Flair just to do it, and they couldn't do it. So what did Hogan say? Anything else like anything about Russo or Eric Bischoff?
No. It's almost difficult to get Hogan to talk about wrestling on that show, but anyway, and Bubba went on to. He was pushing tickets pretty hard, so I mean they must be a little ways from
sold
the sellout.
out. They're not sold out. Oh boy. I mean, it's like I shouldn't push the panic button, but I mean there was a day when WF pay-per-view tickets they certainly wouldn't be certainly wouldn't be any of them left a couple days before a show.
Right.
Or Bubba doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well, that's always true. He did go into a long spiel about how he had personally had a conversation with Vince McMahon, and Vince had told him that he needed to get people in there at 6 o'clock, even though the ticket said 7:45, and all this. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. I don't know what to say.
I can imagine that conversation.
I don't know. I just hear about Bubba the Love Sponge, and I've actually never seen him. I've just heard descriptions of him from his wrestling matches.
Yeah. Well, a couple of years ago, he was enormous. I mean, like 400 pounds enormous. So that he's trimmed down lately. So I'm sure we'll get a high-flying spectacle on Sunday.
That reminds me of an email I just got, but I'm gonna have to read it in just a second. Anything else?
No, that's all I got for you, Dave.
Okay, thanks a bunch, Sean. I wanted to read a couple things really quick, and then we'll get back with Chris. This is I sort of brought it up. This is from the WWF's new video, the No Mercy video game that just came out. It says the game. This is from J.M. Smith, who says the game is awesome, but there's a few interesting moves. A lot of the females in the WWF only have a few moves in real life. Normally, they only have a few moves in the video games as well, but in No Mercy, they've got a lot of moves, and there's two really good ones. Mae Young's got a Hurricane Rana that she uses all the time, and my personal favorite is Stephanie McMahon's finisher, the Tiger Suplex 85, which I guess is that half Nelson German suplex, and it goes, yes, Stephanie looks like she does it just like Mitsuharu Misawa. I wonder if she designed that game herself.
I was going to say, maybe she wrote that.
This is also Vampiro did a real audio interview, and here are some quotes from the interview. Vampiro is, by the way, Vampiro is certainly talking like he's never coming back to WCW, which we've been hearing actually for about a week now. He goes, sorry, I was just in the bathroom taking a WCW, which I'm sure is going to make people feel really good. They didn't have any toilet paper, but I still wiped my Terry Taylor with a Vince Russo. What do you think of that? I wiped my Terry Taylor. Okay, so Vince Russo's toilet paper. He floated for a bit, then it sunk, just like the ratings for that show, since I'm not there anymore. I really can't say much about the details because it's a legal thing right now, but I'm definitely out of wrestling, and I'm playing bass for ICP on their Bizarre Bazaar tour. This isn't a novelty. This isn't a gimmick. I was a musician before I was a wrestler. This isn't what that Chris, he's talking about Chris Jericho, but he says a naughty word, is doing that Fozzy thing. This is for real. I'm done with wrestling. It's not going to happen again unless it's for Juggalo Championship Wrestling. I'm completely gone for wrestling. This is not a gimmick. Wrestling is over. I don't believe it. I don't know. I am skeptical. And this is from Mike. This is an interesting one. Let's see. Since WrestleMania, name one good storyline the Dudleys have been in. I can't think of one. It's just me, but they just fight meaningless matches every week on Raw and SmackDown. Yeah, they just tease table spots and G-Von does the headbutt to the groin. Second, while you've been on the air, Al Gore made a public announcement and cut a promo on George Bush and said, I will meet you in Texas, Florida, or anywhere you want. Who wrote the speech? Ed Ferrara? The promo, speech by Gore, is only second to Jim Byrne, Brian's favorite person, actually my favorite person, at Texas University a few months ago, where his speech about the WWF turned into a heel promo on the PTC, WCW, and all the ex-sponsors of the WWF. So he cut on the PTC and turned himself heel. Wow, that's pretty difficult to do. So Byrne has a lot of talent in ways we didn't realize. By the way, I also want to make mention, because we've gotten several corrections, there are cable packages in Canada that do carry UPN. So not everyone in Canada was able to get SmackDown, and most were not, but there were, in fact, people who could. So I just want to bring that up. And let's get back to Chris. Chris, I wanted to ask you, we brought up Kurt Angle a couple of minutes ago. You were at the dojo with him when he, literally the first time he ever probably saw pro wrestling because he was not a fan growing up or anything. Not the first time he ever saw it, but the first time he was ever really around it. I mean, did you think that he had the potential to be where he's gotten in 2 years, or does that floor you?
I was a little bit surprised. I mean, I knew that he had the talent, but he was such a quiet guy that I didn't see the guy, like the sense of humor that he exhibits on television. I didn't see that there. He was just kind of quiet and he kind of stayed to himself. And so I was expecting almost like the 80s style amateur wrestler turns into professional wrestler type wrestler. And so when I finally saw what he was doing on television, it was a big surprise. And then to see how far he's been pushed and how he's gotten over is a real a pleasant surprise, but a surprise nonetheless.
Got a couple emails from England asking a lot of them asking about your experiences there, what you think of the state of British wrestling, and what do you think are the standout workers in British wrestling as well?
Well, definitely, when you say standout workers, the first person I think of is Jody Flash. He's a young guy, but he's one hell of a flyer, and I think in the next couple of years he can definitely become a major star. I think he's already a big star in England, and I know he's going to try and come over to the States at some point, maybe even to come over and try and wrestle in the Super 8 next year. And I think that people are going to know his name. I mean, he's going to be a star, definitely. As far as the state of British wrestling, I really can't give an opinion on that. My experience with how British wrestling is going is a little too shallow to give any informed opinions. But my understanding of it is right now that they're just not doing as many shows as they need to. I know the group that I went and worked for in October, it was only their second match or the second show, and they had started their promotion in like July. So it's just a matter of slowly building and building up an audience, I guess.
Now, now you wrestled Jody Fleisch, didn't you, in that tournament over there?
Yes.
Yeah. How was that? Because I mean, I heard raves about your match with Otani and with Jody Fleisch.
It was a lot of fun. It was. I've wrestled with Jody before in Michinoku as well. He's been over there a couple of times, and like I said, he's a good worker. He's real young right now, and when he gets the experience to match his talent, he's going to be a player. Some of the stuff he does is just, he defies gravity, and he's doing like shooting stars in the ring, outside of the ring, to the floor, landing on his feet. It's stuff that I haven't seen anybody in the States try and duplicate yet. And
he walks up walls.
Yeah, he does the walk. He walks the wall spot. Although it's kind of hard to fit into an arena. I don't know how the heck he's going to do that anywhere in the States. But
yeah,
we did a lot in Japan.
Yeah, I just remember seeing those tapes just walking up the walls.
Yeah, although it's kind of weird too because everybody knows when it's happening because all of a sudden, Jody and his opponent start walking towards the wall. So there's not much question on what's going to happen next.
Yeah, there's got to be a reason they're going there.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, they're going to the wall. What's going to happen next? I don't know.
Who do you think's your favorite guy to work with?
Wow. Favorite guy to work with. Taka. I'd have to say Taka. I've had the most fun working with Taka. He's a goof. He's a goof. He's such a funny guy outside of the ring, and he's such a great guy in the ring to work with. I've only really worked with him one-on-one a couple times, but the times I was over in Japan, I got to work with him a lot in tag matches and six-mans, and a lot of fun to be around and a lot of fun to work with.
What about Mikey Henderson? How old is he? Is he like 22-ish? Does that sound about right?
Maybe a little younger than that. I think he just turned 21 this year.
Okay. So it was 2 years ago that I probably first saw you and him. Because the first time I think I saw you wrestle, I think it was in a tag match with him.
Uh-huh.
And I think they told me he was 19 at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, when we met, he was like 17 years old. So that was like 96. So, 2021, something like that.
Wow. I thought from the first time I saw him that he had a hell of a future.
Yeah, and he still does. I mean, he still has a heck of a future in front of him. It's just a matter now of catching that break and getting to the next level. I don't think he's as prolific on the indies as he should be. I think he should be working a lot of different places. And for his own reasons, he's just been doing basically the Southern California stuff. But he's definitely a guy I would like to see him go over to work in the Super 8, work on the East Coast. That's up to him though. That's his decision. I think if he were to start working out there, a lot more people would know who he is, and he would definitely have a future. And then, catching that break is just a matter of time, I think.
What did you think of him doing that Tough Man deal?
It was funny that he actually went and did that. I think as a tough man, he's a good wrestler. Maybe what's the diplomatic way to say it? They didn't really show a whole lot of him on television, but I knew that he had a lot of heart and he stuck with it. It just it wasn't his deal. But I mean, you could say that about a lot of the wrestlers that were in there, and a lot of the football players too. It was kind of grotesque to watch.
It was a real messy show.
Yeah. You know what I felt really bad about was that all the wrestlers had to wear those pants that kept coming down, so it was almost like they were Lita or something. All they needed was like a pair of, like a thong underwear to stick out. Poor Aaron Aguilera had that thing almost down the crack of his ass. I felt really bad about the pants more than anything. I think was the pants.
It was. I just remember watching that show, just going like, oh, this is like.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm glad I never would have done that because I know that my strong point is not, trading punches with anybody. But it took a lot of heart for them to get on television and do this thing that they probably knew that they weren't going to be very good at, and for them to go out and have the heart to stick with it, I got to give them that much.
Yeah.
Maybe a pair of shorts in addition, something for next time.
Yeah, let's go to Matt in Vancouver. Matt, what's going on?
Hi, how are you guys doing today?
Hello.
Doing very good.
Well, that's good. Is it true that WWF is trying to buy Headline Sports?
Not buy the whole company. They bought 1/2% of the stock today, and they have the option to buy up to 10% of the stock by February of 2002.
And they're going to put the XFL on that, right?
Yeah, that's in Canada. Yeah, right. And SmackDown and Metal.
Yeah. Why are they putting SmackDown on if some Canadians can already get it? Like,
I guess enough of them can't. I didn't even know any Canadians could get it until I found out about a few minutes ago.
Well, over here we get Tacoma, Washington.
Oh, well, see, okay, that's different. See, that's like I guess people get it on the border, but you're getting it from a border signal. I mean,
you get Tacoma all the way in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Wow.
UPN 11.
Well, that's probably on the cable. That's probably on the cable. That's probably not. It's on the cable. It's not like you get it over the air, right?
No, it's on the cable.
Yeah. See, so that's believable.
But yeah, it's still WrestleMania 17. Are they going to break that barrier over 66,000, or are they going for 66,000?
Well, whatever, they're going to get it. I mean, they got 50,000 already. It's 5 months away or 4.5 months away. I mean, the building's 66,000, so that's what they're going to end up with. So whatever they're going to get with whatever the place holds. It's not like they can't get like 80,000. It's even if they say they did, which they won't this year. But that's what they're going to get.
Do you know if the Rock Preston and Wall match from SmackDown was a good match? I mean, I know one. Yeah, nobody in a report said anything one way or the other, but unless it was like 1 minute, I would think it would be. I mean, if you watch, those guys always have a good match. I don't think they've disappointed yet. Those two, as far as a single. What was that thing that Triple H had a back injury? Do you know what it was called, or how long he's going to be out for? He's wrestling Sunday. It's pretty bad. I mean, I'm sure like under normal circumstances he wouldn't be wrestling Sunday, but he's got like a lot of problems. He's got the inflamed what's it called, sciatic nerve, which is giving him muscle spasms. He's tore muscle that went to his hip, bruised his hip bone. Things has ligament sprains. I mean, his back is a mess. Chris.
Yes.
What were the wrestlers that you looked up to when you were younger and that you try to follow in your career right now? My first favorite wrestler was Magnum TA. I grew up watching him, and I got to see him wrestle
Flair and Nikita Koloff live, and that was a big deal. And I'd have to say the other guy was Ricky Steamboat. I really liked watching him work, and I thought he had a hell of a career everywhere he went, and he was definitely somebody that I looked up to. As far as career, though, the person I kind of looked up to in terms of my wrestling was Shawn Michaels. He was always the guy that I tried to emulate.
Another one.
There you go. Get on the list.
Shock.
It's like our inside joke because, like, every wrestler that's young that comes on the show, that's always the name they bring up.
Yeah.
Is Shawn Michaels.
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that he was a smaller guy coming up. He was like one of the first smaller guys coming up in a big man's company or in a big man's, job. And the fact that he ended up becoming world champion says a lot against the big man stereotype in professional wrestling. And if there's one thing that I was always against in wrestling, it was always the fact that if you weren't big, you weren't good. And I still fight it now. I mean, I'm trying to put on weight, but I'm still. It's one of those things where even in this day and age, people have the tendency to look at me and go, "Hey, you're a wrestler," and that drives me crazy. I think there's so many good like cruiserweight, light heavyweight guys that aren't even like 230 that are so good as wrestlers, and it's still hard even in this day and age for people to break that stereotype in their mind. That big man equals wrestler.
Mysterio and Juventud.
Yeah, definitely.
Mysterio's absolutely tiny.
Yeah.
But Chris, have you?
I mean, Ray now is so jacked though.
Yeah.
I mean, he's small, but he's so muscular. But I mean, I was on a show. I was on a UPW show with Hoovy like last week, and physically, I'm bigger than Hoovy. And I kind of look at myself like if you're smaller than me, I'm like the low end of size as far as wrestling in my eyes. If you're smaller than me, then you better really have something to show other than size to get yourself somewhere. And Hoovy's got it. So.
Chris, have you ever met Ricky Steamboat or Shawn Michaels?
No, I haven't.
Oh, do you guys know what the Heat main event for is this Sunday?
Steve Blackman against Boss Man.
It is? Okay. Thanks for the time, guys. Bye.
When you mentioned Steamboat, I had a kind of question. When you were a kid watching Steamboat, I mean, did you like Steamboat because of his character, or did you recognize that Steamboat was just such an awesome worker in the ring?
You know what? I like the fact that he never turned heel in his career. I never got the impression of him. Like, there were some people who were baby faces that got on my nerves. And like, when I talk about being a baby face, I always say, like, Tom Zank. Like, I like Tom Zank as a worker, but as a baby face, he kind of drove me crazy because he was like that. His baby face persona was like that, hey, everybody, get behind me, that type of thing. And,
rah, rah, rah.
Yeah, exactly. And Ricky Steamboat, even though he was sort of like that, he never rubbed me the wrong way. He was always the type of guy that I rooted for as the babyface. Even in the day where people get behind the heel, he was a guy that I looked at, and I never was like, boo, the babyface. He was, and it was probably because he was such a great worker. But at the same time, it seemed like his character retained that integrity of being the good guy. Despite whenever he was in a slump, whenever he was losing matches, you still rooted for him. So a little bit of both, I think. The fact that he was such a good worker, but his character was he kept his character solid throughout.
There was a TV show that you were on. In fact, someone just sent an email about this. And for the life of me, it was the show with, what was the show? It was a late night show, and you were on with Bret Hart taking bumps from some woman's clothes.
Rita Sever. It was later.
Later.
On NBC, later.
Right. Okay.
Good times.
Let me just check the, let's see.
Was it Rita Sever?
Yeah. That's her.
I remember that.
Yeah. Because I saw a show a long time ago on NBC. It was a late night show. I can't remember the name, but it had a female host, and they interviewed Bret Hart. He did demonstrations from wrestling moves, and Chris Daniels was the guy he demonstrated on. At least it looked a lot like him. No, I remember it was him. Yeah. Could you ask him, how did you get to do that thing for Bret? Did you know Bret, or was it just a local casting call thing? I mean, how did you end up getting there?
It was pretty much it was a local casting call, and it was kind of a last-minute thing. Because I had a job. I was working for Walt Disney at the time, And they gave me a call at like 1 o'clock, and they said, we need you here by 3:30. So I went home and got my stuff and went out there and got a chance to meet Brett. That was the first time I'd ever met him. And I only really got a chance to talk to him for like 5 minutes before we went on and did the stuff that we did. But that was an interesting day. It was an interesting day. And,
wow, like a
what?
last-minute deal.
It was
like a
fun.
last-minute deal.
It was fun.
Let's see. This is from John, who's talking about. It says very few people in Canada get UPN. Some of us in Toronto can get it from the UPN Boston, but it's part of an expensive premium cable package. This is someone who says that they have no pairs tickets left for WrestleMania. All that's left is single seats. So that means they must be awful close to sold out. I'll try to get an update on the number tomorrow. And this is a question for Chris. What's your opinion of the members of Crazy Max?
I think Crazy Max is a good group. I think Shima Nobunaga has the most potential of really being the superstar. But right now, that gimmick and that crew, they all fit, and they're ridiculously over. Everywhere that I've been wrestling with them, it's just ridiculously over. And I think they've got a long career ahead of them.
Someone from WCW was talking to me yesterday? Tuesday, yeah. And they were talking about turning the company around. And it was kind of like that first hour emphasized work, and I was saying, like the old, basically it was trying to redo what they did in 96 and 97 when they really made Nitro hot. And one of the things that made Nitro hot was, all those, the Ultimo Dragons and Benoit and, introducing Rey Mysterio Jr., the whole Psychosis, the whole crew of the great workers match after match, and then you had the big stars in the main event. That was kind of the Eric Bischoff formula. I'm not trying to credit it to him or say that, he's great. It's not a brilliant formula. It was the formula, and it did work at the time. And then I said, the difference between now and 96 is that there's not a whole bunch of guys in Mexico that, are undiscovered that can come in and have impact. And then, which may or may not be right, but that's what I said. And they said, what about all of Dragon's guys, which is, Shima Nobunaga and those guys? What's your thoughts as far as, it's, again, there is the language barrier, which is something that, is always given the knock on guys that are from a foreign country. Yet, there's some of those guys are really superior workers like Shima Nobunaga. What's your thoughts as far as, or Magnum Tokyo or some of those type of guys?
I think that's pretty much dead on. The fact that there's a language barrier is going to be the thing that keeps them from really crossing over here. I mean, unless one of two things happen, unless they come over here and learn enough English to get by, or unless they're saddled with someone who gets to be a mouthpiece for them. There's ways to work around it. I mean, you've got these writers that is there no way that they can get a guy that's not going to speak on a microphone? Is there no way that they can put him and feature him in a show? I mean, it's just a matter of, do they want to do that? Do they want to put that effort into getting a guy who is not going to speak if they're going to give him ring time? I mean, I think that's one of the things, too, that Sabu has never cut a promo, as far as I'm aware of. And, that's one of the things that people say about him, like, oh, well, if Sabu would speak, then he would be more over, or he would have a job in WWF or WCW. And see, that's kind of ridiculous.
Actually, I think that he's better off not speaking.
Yeah, and there's no reason why that type of thing should hold a worker back. But in this day and age, especially, the emphasis that's put on television, I think that's going to be the one thing that would hold someone like that back.
And it's too bad, too, because when the bell rings, you're not cutting a promo. And some of those guys, I mean, they can't speak English, but they have so much charisma.
Right.
And, if they could just, look at guys like La Parka. I mean, they became cult heroes, and they never said anything. They just danced around and did whatever. And, I mean, there's guys in WCW right now that can speak English, but they still can't cut a promo, and they have no charisma in the ring.
The other thing, as far as, every rule in wrestling, that we'll hear, there's always an exception. And I mean, when you're talking about, they can't get over because they can't cut a promo, and I start, the first things pop in my head are Kane and Bill Goldberg. And granted, those are both real big guys. But I mean, as a kid watching wrestling, there were plenty of guys who weren't big guys. In fact, some small guys that got over huge, that never did a promo, but usually it was because they had a good manager by them who did the promo. I mean, Bobby Heenan could have gotten over if there was a good worker, any good worker anywhere. He could have been a masked man who never spoke. But if he was good enough in the ring, and you had Bobby Heenan out of the ring or Jim Cornette out of the ring, they'd get him over.
Yeah, it's just now. Do they want to take that time and effort? It seems like they're looking for the quick, the quick fix, the quick get over. And do they want to put the time and effort into getting somebody who's not going to speak English? Are they going to put him with a manager? Or are they going to put him in situations where he doesn't have to speak? And, maybe they think it's just easier to find somebody that can speak English and teach them to work rather than have a guy who can work, circles, come in and figure out a way to get him over without having to talk. So it's kind of a backwards thing, but it's the way it is right now.
Have you ever seen tape of Urban Wrestling?
Say that again?
Have you ever seen a tape of Urban Wrestling?
I saw their first show, yeah. I don't know if it was their first show. I saw a show of them. Yeah,
because I was actually, just before we went on the air, I actually saw that for the first time. And I thought it was, interesting in that it was clear to me that they took a bunch of guys with no regard to whether or not they could work, but as far as, we could make characters out of them. And then when I was watching it, and it was once the bell rang, I just couldn't get into it because, again, they couldn't work.
Yeah. The show I saw, they had Tony Jones wrestling Vinny Valentino and a couple other guys. And my opinion of it was it seemed like it seemed like every other place. They had guys that could do some good stuff and guys that couldn't do as much. But I think the thing that lost me was that it seemed like they were trying to be more like an American Gladiators type show rather than a wrestling show. They were having all these one-word names and not stereotypical, but real one-dimensional characters. I mean, the show I saw had Aaron Baker on it. And if there's someone who's got name value in that company outside of wrestling, it would be Aaron Baker. Former pro bodybuilder and, someone who competed for Mr. Universe titles. But they didn't want to call him Aaron Baker. They just called him Aaron. And to me, that was that's kind of ridiculous to take a guy who's got name value and throw it away.
Yeah, better than Baker.
Yeah, exactly, or Baker, or A Baker, or AB, or something like that.
At least they didn't make him with a chef hat. But,
yeah.
The other thing on that show was there were just way too many women.
Yeah, you know what? It was 3 girls for every guy.
Yeah, it was 1 million women, and it was just how are you remember any? Yeah. Well, let's go to Dave in New York. Dave, what's going on?
Hey, guys. Got a quick question for Dave before I ask Chris my question. Actually, 2 questions for Dave before I get to Chris. A friend of mine sent you a tape recently. I was wondering if you got a look at it yet. A tape of Survival Tobita matches from Japan.
I got it. I haven't seen it yet. I'm really behind on tapes. I just watched Urban Wrestling this morning, so no. But no, I haven't seen it yet. But I do have it right in front of me.
Okay. You do know what it is, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay. So you'll finally get to see Ken the Box.
Yeah.
Okay. Another thing, just as far as luchadors that they could bring into the U.S., I just watched an IWRG tape, and they've got a couple good guys like Motocross and Alan Stone.
Yeah, I've heard that those guys are really good.
Dr. Cerebro.
I've seen Dr. Cerebro on Japanese tapes before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yes.
I was wondering, when you did the worldwide match against Alan Funk about a month or 2 back.
Yeah.
Did you hurt yourself on that bump you took on the floor?
I actually didn't. It was funny because
that was really scary.
Yeah, it wasn't funny, but after the match, I came back and everybody yelled at me. They were like, "What the hell did you just do? What's the matter with you? Why did you do that?" And I honestly didn't know what the big deal was until a month later I saw it on television, and then I realized that it looked like I drove my neck into my sternum. But yeah, I was fine actually, and it was actually a joke. The next time I saw Alan Funk, I had actually hurt my neck working out, and he thought it was funny that I could dive from the top rope to the floor and not hurt myself, but doing side lateral raises, I twist my neck. So go figure.
That is sort of amusing in a sad way.
Yeah, I'm extremely durable in some instances and extremely fragile in others. So. It's
wow,
weird.
I don't know how anyone could be a wrestler that could be fragile, and then especially your style. It's You know, because you're bouncing up. I mean, from the matches I've seen you, I mean, you're bouncing up from everything.
Yeah. Well, I've been really lucky. I've only been injured seriously once, and everything else has just been kind of passing, you know, bumps and bruises. So
and what was that?
Been extremely lucky with some of the stuff I've done, and yeah, I don't understand how guys can be wrestlers and be fragile. I mean, I know a lot of guys that spend a lot of their career being injured, and it seems to me like how can you stay with it? How can you stick with it? But
what was your serious injury?
What was your serious injury?
This February, I pulled my groin in Japan, and I ended up it was the first time I ever had to cancel a show because I was hurt, and it was so bad that I couldn't even walk. So, but the thing about it was, or the good thing about it was, it only kept me kind of messed up for like 3 weeks. So I was really lucky. It could have laid me up for a really long time, and it just so happened that it got better like in the middle of my last Japanese tour. So.
Were you working injured when you did the Super 8, or was it recovered by then?
No, I was working injured. I thought I was recovered, and as I was in the locker room and I was stretching out, I pulled it again. So I ended up wrestling 3 matches, kind of hurt. If you watch the tape, the match that I had with Ace Darling, he gives me the bulldog. I can hardly stand up because I pulled it like extra hard, taking the face bump. And as I'm getting up to take another move, I'm kind of staggering pretty badly because I couldn't stand up straight.
Wow, because you had 2 just awesome matches at that show. I have to compliment you.
Thank you very much.
Especially the match with Vic Capri, because it was just unlike anything you'll ever see on an indie tape, and like any other indie tape, because like you just stiff the hell out of each other in that match.
Yeah, I was lucky. Vic is a really good worker, and he's got a good sensibility as far as a Japanese style, which I think in the past like 2 years I've kind of developed into without even really knowing it. And so to tell him what I wanted to kind of do in the match, and he kind of followed me with it. And the thing about it too being that we kind of knew we were going to put everything in there and shake hands afterwards, so it was no big deal to get in there and take a couple of hard shots. Someone sent me an email of a picture that they took when he gave me the half Nelson suplex, and it's a picture of me like right on the top of my head with my legs sticking straight up in the air.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that was a nice picture though. Laughed and laughed.
One last question: at the Super 8, did the guys in the masks that had the signs about you tasting great scare you?
I was just shocked that anybody in the States even follows Curryman. The fact that he's over as much as he is, it's so odd. I couldn't understand it in Japan, and to even try and understand it here in the States is weird. I actually had a guy make the official Curryman website like 6 months after I stopped doing the character, and it's up now.
Oh yeah, spicyone.com,
yeah,
right?
It's astounding that people got into it like they did. But my friend Kevin Quinn explained to me, he said that he thought it was so over because it was so different, and the fact that it was an American guy doing a Mexican style comedy gimmick in Japan, it's like the stars converting. You'll never see anything like that again. So I was real lucky to have that happen, and the way it got over. And yeah, it was kind of scary. I wasn't expecting it when I walked out of the crowd, and all of a sudden I look over and there's, Octagon and all the different masks that they were wearing, holding up signs. It's kind of weird.
Actually, I bought a Curryman mask from someone a couple months ago.
You did?
Yeah.
You owe me $5. There's got to be some sort of payment for me because I don't.
You should get someone to make them. You can. Because you sell the Curryman shirts at shows, right?
Yeah, but I made those. I mean, I made those and set them up, so it's not anything. But I never made the masks. I don't know who I would even go to make the masks.
I got it from a guy that knows one of the mask makers in Mexico.
Really?
Yeah. Actually, I got it pretty cheap. I got it for $24.
Into my profit.
The masks. Did you know that in I think it was Weekly Pro at the end of last year, when they did like their most popular foreign wrestler, like you were like, I know you were in the top 5. I think you were like number 4 or something.
Really? No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they was like with it's like Stan Hansen, Scott Norton, probably Vader and you. It's like their most popular foreign wrestler.
Why the hell would anyone choose Scott Norton over Chris?
Well, it's just like one of those things. I think Scott Norton may have been first. which is like really scary in another way.
Yeah, well, I think it's just the form that they had, being in New Japan and All Japan. A lot more people know who they are. So. Well,
Scott Norton, he's just been there forever, and he's still there.
Yeah.
How come? Is there any reason why you're not going back there? You just don't want to, or?
No, I have no problem going back there. I just haven't. I actually sent them an email in the last couple of weeks, letting them know that I was available to do it again. It's just now a matter of if they want me to come back. I left when I left in March. I left on really good terms, so I don't think there'd be a problem with me going back. It just hasn't materialized yet, so I'm sure I'm going to be wearing the ugly yellows once again.
Remember to get Sasuke to pay you in cash, though.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's never been a problem. He always pays me in cash. So.
Okay. Now, that's good to know.
I mean, do you when you go over there? I mean, because a lot of people when they go to Japan for a lengthy tour, it kind of drives them crazy because you're in Japan and everything's so different. After about 2 weeks, you start, or for you, is this just fun?
It's about 2 weeks before I start to get really irritated. I found out the first tour I went on that you have to bring your own stimuli. You got to bring there's nothing American for you there. You got to bring your own music, your own books. The last time I went over there, I had a laptop and it played DVDs, so I brought a bunch of movies to watch. And it takes about 2 weeks for me to read everything I bring and listen to everything I bring and watch everything I bring, and then you start getting kind of antsy to go home. The Masked Man tour was 6 weeks long, so that was like the longest 2 months of my life, or it felt like that. And 3 weeks was about the longest that I would go without actually like getting really irritable and really not fun to be around by the end.
Yeah, because I just know from my own going there, I think the longest I ever went was 2 weeks, maybe a little more than 2 weeks. And it was like every time I've gone like for a week, it's like no problem. It's just like it's a fun vacation. But I just remember the one time I went for, I think it was 2.5 weeks. At about the 2 week mark, it was just like I want to go home. And it was nothing. I was having a great time every day there, but it was just like it's just like time to come home. You know what I mean?
Well, it was always the downtime for me. I mean, the wrestling was fun, getting there, getting set up, wrestling the matches, finishing up. That was always great. But it was like the time between, like the travel time and the sitting in your hotel. And I'm not much of a sightseer, so it wasn't like I was going out taking pictures of Mount Fuji or anything. I was just kind of sitting there and, thinking to myself.
Now how's the travel? Because did you ever go there like during one of those winter tours where it was, or was it? Was travel hard on that tour?
Not too hard. I mean, when I was there in March, there was like snow up to the roofs of like single-story buildings, but travel wasn't too bad. I mean, we always rode the bus. It was never anything like we were trucking around in cars or anything. Every once in a while there was like an all-day drive, but nothing I couldn't handle. It was boring. It was just a bus ride. Just listen to my CDs or do something.
Anything else, Dave?
Just want to tell Chris that I'll email him about the guy that I got the Curry Man mask from.
Okay.
And also, you have a lot of marks for you at DeathValleyDriver.com. I know Brian goes there a lot.
Okay.
Okay, so just Curryman Ichiban.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Ken the Box forever.
I'll bet that guy was the one who got all the signs to that one show.
Probably.
That gimmick, I mean, just with the hat and everything.
It's odd. I tried every time I went back. I tried to add something goofy to it. So every time there was like the Droz hat or the T-shirt or writing "Eat Me" on my arm in Japanese. I just tried to find stupid stuff to do. If you watch the tape of the J Cup where I come out, at that point I knew that was like my last hurrah. So it was like go out and shake my ass like an idiot for.
Oh, I saw that whole thing. Yeah.
Oh.
That was it was a hell of a match though.
Thank you.
I thought.
I was blown up. I'm glad he took so long to get to the ring because going around dancing for 5 minutes, I was as they're calling my name, like, oh God, please don't rush the ring.
Because I'd never seen him, and I thought that especially the beginning of the match, it was like because I think a lot of people had never seen him, and it was kind of like whoa, it's not like what you expect when you see some guy in this gimmick costume, and all of a sudden he's throwing these awesome drop kicks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure what to expect from him either, but it ended up really well, and I was really happy with it and proud of it. So,
Chris, we got to wrap it up right now. I want to thank you very much for doing the show, and good luck in getting. I mean, they know who you are, and just like someone coming up with an idea for you because you deserve it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dave, Brian. Thank you very much for having me, and hopefully I can come back on again.